The course of foreign language acquisition and learning was designed by Monica Guillen. The number of credits is 2, and the course learning proposes to establish spaces for the appropriation of the foreign language teaching process in participant observation practice. This is made in different learning environments through practical activities carried out for the students. So, in this course, we must develop 32 hours of practice in an educational institution, and it's divided in 5 phases. The first one is this one, the recognition activity, that ends on September 4. We also have in the phase 2 8 hours of participant observation practice, 2 hours of material development, and 3 hours of SAPEC. This ends on October 11. In the phase number 3, we have 8 hours of participant observation practice, 2 hours of material development, and this activity ends on November 6. The phase number 4, we have 3 hours of SAPEC. This is quite different because we have 3 hours for e-portfolio and 3 hours of simulated scenario. This activity ends on November 27. And finally, in the phase 5, we have a final activity that ends on December 11. All of these activities have a learning outcome, so depending on the phase, the student will be able to, for example, in this phase, the learning outcome is to review the characteristics of the course and the particularities of the pedagogical and educational practice process. This is so all the information that we as students read in this phase is going to help to this outcome. In the learning outcome number 2 is to examine the factors that influence the process of foreign language acquisition and learning methodically, I think is and in detail within the pedagogical practice scenarios. In the learning outcome number 3, we have to compare the main theories of foreign language acquisition within the context of the pedagogical practice scenario. The learning outcome number 4 is to evaluate the teaching strategies used within the classroom based on the students' learning characteristics. And the last one is to set up a proposal related to the new assessment approach in the classroom environment. So, the course has 2 units. The first one is foreign language acquisition from the theory of the practice. The main topics are like fundamentals of foreign language acquisition and learning, the fundamentals, the internal and external factors in the learning process. We have age, critical period, motivation, attitude, aptitude, psychosocial, economic, cultural aspects, among others. This is important because depending on the context is the way we are going to teach. So all of this information is important. And the last one is identify learning styles through class observation. In the second unit, we have learning trends in foreign language. That we are going to talk about current trends and methodologies of teaching foreign language. This is also important to know how to involve the use of ICT, the information and communication technology, in the teaching and learning process in the classroom. So, we finish with the new assessment approaches. Now I'm going to talk about the agreement regulations of pedagogical and educational practices. We have 9 chapters with 24 articles which talk about definitions and propose, the generalities and definitions about practical component, pedagogical and educational practice, also the teacher in training. This is important because right now me as a student, I'm a teacher in training. We also have to learn about the curricular aspects of the training route of pedagogical and educational practice, all of the steps that we need to follow, the prerequisites, or in cases of some students, we also have the homologation of the course. All of this information is important to know to start. So, I think in the next part I'm going to talk more about each of them, but the main idea is that we have 9 chapters with 24 articles. Now I'm going to talk about the guidelines for the development of pedagogical and educational practices. We have normative references. We have some normative references depending on the year. For example, we have in 1994, we start with the law 30, and the law, I think, was 115, and the last one that I read in the guidelines was the resolution 21,795 of November 19 of 2020, which established the parameters of the self-assessment and the verification and evaluation of the quality. This was the decree from the 2015. So this was the main things about the normative references. So now we have the principles of action. We have 5 that are, for example, the integrality of the teaching pedagogical practice, the way we talk to the educational actors, the promotion of protective environment for children and teens, also respect for differences, excellence in service. All of this is like around the leaving the name of the institution high, because we are representing it as teachers in training in the educational institute that we are going to work. Now about the bachelor's programs at SEDU, we have 2 groups, like programs in transition and programs with renewed registration. In the programs in transition, we have the bachelor's degree in children's pedagogy, the bachelor's degree in ethnoeducación, we have the bachelor's degree in mathematics, and in the renewed registration we have degree in filosofía or bachelor's degree in foreign language as foreign language with emphasis in English. So these are the 2 groups that we have in the SEDU. So the definitions we have in the guidelines are practical component, pedagogical and educational practice, a specific regulation of pedagogical and educational practice, nature and offer of the practical component course, teaching and training, and root of pedagogical and educational practice. All of these we have the definitions, but I'm just going to talk about the titles. These concepts are important to know in order to develop our pedagogical and educational practice in the correct way. Okay, to talk about the pedagogical and educational practice route for my program, in this case Lillet, we have in the first topic we have observation. We count didactics of English evaluation, foreign language acquisition and learning, and methodology in foreign language teaching. Now, in immersion, we have curricular approaches, testing and evaluation in ILT, technology in foreign language teaching, teaching English to children, teens and adults, and teacher development, and to finish, integral pedagogical practice. So we have this in immersion. And now for research, we have educational research, research pedagogical practice in online environments, and pedagogical practice using TIC. To start the pedagogical practice, we must have met certain prerequisites, for example, having a proof of minimum of 40 credits that include chair, una lista chair, I don't know if that's how I say cátedra, that was the only translation that I got. Introduction to the bachelor's degree in foreign language with an emphasis in English, social service, digital tools for knowledge management, the logical and mathematical thinking, epistemology and historical pedagogy, mother tongue, didactic, fundamental of and generalities of the investigation, and introduction to linguistics. So these are the prerequisites that we need to have, and also do the pre-practical seminar, but I'm going to talk about that a little later. Okay, now I'm going to talk about the pre-practical seminar. This takes place the period prior to start the practical pedagogical practice. So this generates an administrative enlistment of the pedagogical practice to make it easier to assign a scenario to go and solve the next phases in this place, like to make the observational practices and everything. The pre-practical seminar has no credits and is not a degree requirement, but I think it's necessary for example, in my case, I didn't do the pre-practical seminar, but the person in charge of the pedagogical practices said that I could maybe get the educational institution later, but it's going to be easier for the ones that did the practical seminar. Now I'm going to talk about the SAPEC, or the synchronous accompaniment strategy presential of the School of the Educational Science. This is quite difficult to pronounce. I'm going to go with the SAPEC. This is a way that the SEDU plans, designs, develops, and evaluates the mandatory synchronous meetings, planned and scheduled within the course. So this is the way that the tutor or the teacher is checking on our questions, or maybe all the activities we do during the course, and it's going to be easier to talk about, I don't know, this is what I observed in this class or in the pedagogical practices that we are doing. What else can I say about this? So, become a teacher in pedagogical and educational practice is to talk about, develop scenarios of practice. So the student is assured of an integral process. So this is the way that the teacher is keeping an eye maybe on our work and everything. This type of synchronic meetings could be like maybe for web conference, Skype, chat, all of this. We have all of these ways to communicate in this case, maybe Teams. And this is the final topic, the educational pedagogical practice simulator. This is like, we need to develop activities of pedagogical and educational practice through the simulator of pedagogical practice. It's mandatory and is an integral part of the evaluation rubric in the corresponding phase that we are doing right now. So it's very important. I'm not sure yet about, I don't really know a lot about this topic, but I'm going to keep reading, and this is actually, I think this is in the last two phases, so I'm going to read about this. So this was all the information. It was a lot of information. I don't know if maybe I was lacking a little in some topics, but for me it was very interesting to know about all of this. I have a better idea of what I need to do in my pedagogical practice, and I hope that at the end of this course I'm going to be improve the way I talk, improve the way I'm teaching that. I'm quite learning that, still learning that, but yeah, thank you for okay, so thank you for listening to me, and I hope we see you in the future. Okay, so this was a lot of information. I hope this video is quite informative, and I'm going to read more about all of this. But yeah, now I have a better idea of what I need to do in this pedagogical practice. So, bye.